But like every single time I did multiple choice, I would see it as a benefit if I missed one because I'm like, that caught something else I didn't know.
Right.
And that's awesome. Now, if I get something similar to that question, I know the answer. So even the night before the test, I would get one I didn't know. And instead of freaking out, I'd be like, now that's like one more thing I know for the test.
Welcome to episode 107 of the CPA Exam Experience podcast from SuperfastCPA. I'm Nate, and in today's interview, you're going to hear me talk with Emily. So Emily's story with the CPA exams started when she started working in accounting, and she had a coworker who was working on the CPA exams. And from what she saw, and then, talking with her coworker, the coworker, their process was staying after work 5 to 6 hours every night, leaving the office around 11 p.m. or midnight. And after several months, it seemed like they were still just failing sections. So in Emily's mind, she thought, if that's what studying for the CPA exams is like, I guess I'm not going to be a CPA. Then, at some point, she saw one of our YouTube ads, where, of course, in those ads, I am claiming that when you know how to study correctly or efficiently, the CPA exams don't have to take over your entire life and turn into a complete nightmare. So she had those two conflicting messages. She decided to watch one of our free trainings where we walk through the actual strategies, and now she's on the podcast. So you can guess how it all went. So in this episode, you're just going to hear her whole process, her study journey, the ups and downs, all the insights that she had going through the process, passing her CPA exams. She just has a lot of unique insights and experiences to share on this interview. So before we get into that interview, I want to mention two things. Of course, the free training, which I already just mentioned. That's where Emily started. Every time we release one of these episodes, I get quite a few emails, 10 to 20, about, okay, I'm ready to get serious with this. I've been a subscriber, or I watch the videos on YouTube. Where should I start? Where you should start is one of those free study trainings. It's an hour-long training where we will walk through our core strategies that help you prevent the CPA exams from taking over your entire life and turning into a nightmare by showing you how to study effectively and efficiently. So you can sign up for one of those trainings on our main site at SuperfastCPA.com on the homepage, or the link will be down in the description of this episode. The second thing is our free podcast giveaway. So each month we give away 3 pairs of PowerBeat Pro headphones, with the idea being that, our audio notes, you've probably heard multiple people talk about using the audios on these interviews. But of course, with audio, you can be racking up extra study time as you do normal, mundane, daily things like preparing meals, cleaning up dinner, walking the dog, whenever you're in your car. Obviously, in addition to your main study sessions, audio just makes it extremely easy to get a lot of extra exposure and study time in over the course of your study process. So that link to that giveaway will be down in the description as well. So with that out of the way, let's get into the interview with Emily. All right. So have you heard many of these other interviews?
I have, yeah. I was actually just listening to Jen's, which is like one of the newer ones you posted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of know how these go then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'll
Yep.
just talk through your. Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. So I have pretty much all of my coworkers at the firm I'm at right now are studying. And so I've been like recommending to them. I was like, even if you don't buy it, listen to the podcast. Cause I was like, they're really
Yeah.
motivational.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. But yes, the interviews are just a huge resource. I mean, we get a lot of people that say, I get thank you emails from people who only listen to the podcast, and like never bought our products, but just figured out their study process through listening to them. So yeah,
Yeah.
the podcast has been good. And I looked up your, I just remember you were on the forum and looked
Yep.
up your posts. So you passed these pretty quickly. 4 months,
Yep.
if about 4 months, right?
Yeah. So I kind of like, I'll kind of go back. So I graduated from school initially in 2012. And, but I mean, I wasn't an accounting major. I was just kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do. So I slowly started going back to school,
Mhm.
finally finished all of my CPA requirements in early 2021. No, yeah, like January of 2021. And yeah, had like 2 kids in there and then was like, "Okay, I guess it's time to study." So I had a was doing Becker or no, Roger, using Roger, and he studied every single night from, like he would stay after work from, like, 5 to, like, I mean, I don't know, 10 or 11 PM, he said. And he I hope he's not listening to this, I doubt he is, failed far, far, like a 61. And after studying like that for like 4 months, and I was like, "Just not gonna do that. Like, if that's what it takes to do this, I'm not gonna be a
Mhm.
CPA, I guess." So, 2 kids at home, like, my husband works too. So, yeah. So then found kinda like searching programs. I was like, CPA. That kinda sounds like my method. So bought the program, tried to get away like, I tried to get away with just doing it for a little bit, but then like it Ninja. But there were just some things since I don't have my master's that I hadn't fully covered in school that I
Mhm.
did need Becker or like bonds and FAR and some of the harder topics in reg. So did end up finding Becker. Um, but I would say a majority of my studying was just the notes and uh, like Ninja questions, then multiple choice.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you have a period where you studied the normal way, or you kinda didn't even really jump into the study process until you had come across our strategies or whatever?
Yeah. So I definitely. So last summer, I studied and watched most of the FAR videos for Becker and just didn't really, I don't know, like it wasn't clicking. And yeah, just kind of like how other people have said, you're kind of like on your phone, like
Mhm.
just work material and not really applying it. So let's see. I think it was September. Let me get my notes up. September 30th, I sat, or no, September 3rd last year, I sat for FAR. And after all of that, failed with a 73. And as much as I was like, it was really hard to fail, I was like, I got a 73. I know I can do this. And
Mhm.
so, actually, so it's kind of like have some life stuff too. We found out we were pregnant in like right before that test, I think in August. We moved. And so I hadn't even like studied that much. I was pretty much just at that point going through the super fast notes. And but then I failed with 73. I was like, well, if I just study like a little bit more, I think I can pass this. Well, then unfortunately we miscarried. And I think like, yeah, so recovered from that. And then finally in like December, I was like, I'm going to do this. And so what I would do is I
Yeah.
would just sit and like have,
You kind of
I would
froze for a
retype all of
second,
your
I can't.
notes and I would
Mm.
delete out anything that I already knew. And then kind of like Jen said in her interview, like use that as like a cheat sheet and just review that over and over again. Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. I'm not sure like where you want me to start back up.
So the last thing that I heard was, you were getting ready to take an exam, you had a miscarriage,
Yep.
which sorry to hear about that,
Yep.
and that was the
Yeah.
last thing I heard.
So let's see. That happened in like, yeah. So then took it September 3rd, failed with a 73. And was kind of, like, excited though, because I was like, I hadn't touched my study materials in, like, a month, so I was like, "I think I can do this if I just go through the notes and stuff." So, the biggest thing I did all through basically December, I switched firms and, um, wasn't scheduled on very much at my new firm, and so was able to spend a lot of time studying. So I, like, retyped all your notes, and then I did the Becker final review,
Mm,
and that really helped a lot too. And actually yeah, so then I got let's see, December 30th, I was supposed to sit for FAR again, and, it got canceled because COVID, like, everyone at the testing center got COVID, and I was so bummed because I'd taken that was, like, our Christmas break, and then I was like, "Well, what am I gonna do?" Because starting in January, I was booked on more, and so I was like, "Well, maybe this just isn't for me." And my husband gave me, like, a big pep talk, and I rescheduled it for,
mm,
I think, January 2nd it was, and took it and got let's see, then found out a little while later I got a 77. So that
nice.
was the first one that I passed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then you just kept going with that study format and
Mhm.
passed the other 3?
Yeah, so I think I am someone that, like, overanalyzes things a lot, probably like a lot of CPA or accountants, and so I was like what I ended up doing is I just bought the 3 rest of the tests. I was like, "I'm just gonna make myself go sit for these." So I did not use basically all I did was the Becker final review and retype your notes, and
Wow.
then do the multiple choice on the app too. That was really helpful. And I did not pass with, like, great scores. I think my highest score was Beck with a 83. So, I mean, it wasn't like I got amazing scores, but
Right. I
I
mean,
think
that
really if you, like, understand the notes and, like, have those down and then doing the multiple choice, um, was really helpful.
yeah, so you
Also, I
re
think, like
sorry,
yeah.
sorry. We have, like, a 1-second
No, go
delay, so
ahead.
I'll hear you say something and then start responding, and you don't hear it yet. Um, so, what was I gonna say? The, oh,
Mhm.
you retyped our notes just, like, on your
Yep.
computer, on in a Word doc or
Yep.
something?
Yep. And would kinda do as you said, like, add in multiple choice I missed, and also, like, I'm a big visual learner, so, like, I really liked how your notes went with the blueprint as
Mhm.
opposed to, like, um, other notes that people sell, and so it just made it really clear, and then I immediately knew, like, whether I was doing I use Ninja a lot for multiple choice just because it's set out the same way with the blueprint,
Mhm.
and, I just could immediately go back to where that should have been in my notes and been like, "Oh, yeah, I had read that, and I just forgot, but I was recalling it." Or I would add that note in like, "Okay, this is more detail on this section that I need to remember better."
Yeah. Um,
Yep.
because 'cause I've never looked into this, just as an aside.
Mhm.
Can you use Ninja on your phone at all? Like, does it
I
work
don't
on your
know.
phone? Is there an app?
I think there's no app. I think it's just through the browser. I did it a couple times. Not a lot because it's kinda, more difficult
Yeah, yeah.
questions, but
Okay, I just didn't
yeah.
know that. Um, so what okay, so after you passed FAR, what was your actual like, from start to finish in one day? How long would you sit down and in front of Ninja on like, a laptop, and then
Mhm.
through the day, how would you use
Yeah.
our notes or audios, if at all? Just how did a full day
Yes.
go?
So at first I would try getting up in the mornings, but I must admit, like, I wasn't very good about that. So we had, especially during this time, we would have a pretty strict 7 PM bedtime with our kids, and then 7:15, I was studying, and it was usually just like an hour, hour and a half. I would go to my next section that I hadn't retyped, and I would retype it and add in like more or less detail, or if I already knew something and knew I wasn't going to have trouble recalling it, I would, skip that section or summarize it more. And then I would do one set of 30 multiple choice for that section.
Okay.
And then like a cumulative one for everything I'd studied so far.
Okay. So
Um, yeah.
you used retyping the notes as kind of your version of getting an overview for a new lesson and then go into the multiple
Yeah.
choice. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, like, obviously, could have, should have studied more, but I just don't have that long of an attention span, and
Mhm.
I knew that, like, I was gonna get an hour, hour and a half of good studying, and that was it, and, like, some of my coworkers do, like, 100 multiple choice a day, 180 multiple choice a day, and I'm just like, I would not it wouldn't benefit me. Like,
Mhm.
30, 60 multiple choice a day is what I can retain, what I can, like, focus on, and that's it. So,
Yeah, and,
um
it was working, obviously. That's kind of the big thing.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, the
yep.
same thing
And
with,
then
sorry, man, that delay.
go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead. I'll remember my question.
So, yeah, so when it came time for reg, I had asked because, when I purchased all 3, so I passed back, next, and then audit, but in there I failed reg because I did 1 season of tax and it was not anything like the test.
Mhm.
And, so just didn't have any familiarity with that. So then, I was having a hard time with, like, the corporate and, like, the really complicated material. So you suggested doing 1 set of 30 of just that section. I think it's the last section of the blueprint, maybe like 5, would do 1 set of those and then 1 set of cumulative, and that really helped a lot. 'Cause I think unless you're in tax and doing that all the time, like, that's just gonna be the hardest part of the test. All the corporate partnership, complicated stuff.
Yeah, and how basis works depending on the entity and yeah, it is. I mean, I would agree,
Yep.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so let's see. Oh, and I was just gonna comment on the, studying at morning versus the night. That's what I always tell people. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Listen, here's like, you can do it at
Yeah.
night if you're staying consistent and, like, you're improving." But for most people, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't really work at night because 3 nights a
Yeah.
week, they just won't study at all or because stuff comes up in the
Yeah.
night. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you can do it and it's working, then it obviously doesn't matter when you do it. It's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And what about so were you were working at this time, right? During the day?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I work at, RSM. So I started there back in December and got really lucky that I wasn't scheduled on very much and that they were like so supportive of me sitting for the exam.
Mhm.
Um, so that was really helpful.
Yeah, I think for most people, it's, you just get assigned a ton of stuff, and every few weeks, the partners are emailing the new staff like, "How's the CPA exams coming?" But they don't, you know, make any
Yeah.
concession for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was on like a typical busy season client and had a few things that I was really should have probably been finishing up on Saturday. And my manager asked like if I planned to be on tomorrow. And I was like, yeah, I'll get on in the morning and then I'm going to sit for I can't remember which one in the afternoon. And he was like, don't. It can wait till next week. Just go sit for it and
Yeah,
study. So
that's nice. Yeah, that's different than most, I
yeah.
would say.
It also I'm in a more rural area, like I said, in Springfield, Illinois, so we're not as busy as probably larger areas, and then too, with just starting in December, I didn't get scheduled on as much for busy season, so combination of all of that, I was working maybe 50 hours a week during busy season average. So it wasn't like other places that I've heard.
And what about so you would retype our notes, but then did you also make flashcards as you were going through MCQs, or did you have a separate, or you would just add stuff back to your notes and your
Mhm.
document?
Yeah, yep. I'd either screenshot the multiple choice or, like, if it was a sim, I would, like, screenshot it and put it in there, um, and just make sure that, like, as I was reviewing, that I would just look at those too.
Okay. So you basically had one document per section where you would rewrite our notes,
Mhm.
add your custom screenshots
Yep.
of multiple choice that you missed, or just kind of made it this master notes document. Okay.
Yeah, I just had a Google document, and it was helpful because I had it everywhere. I could look at it on my phone, I'd look at it at work, um, you know, that was really yeah, what I used.
I like
At
that.
first, of course At first, I tried, like I bought a big binder, I printed out all the notes, I was like, "I'm gonna highlight everything and, like, have it be this bigger thing," and then I was like, "This is what works for me," so, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I'm a big fan of everything digital. Like, I mean, again, if people ask me, I'm like, yeah, do it digitally because you can,
Mhm.
I mean, it's everywhere. You take it with you, you just walk out the
Yep.
door and those flashcards you made are on your phone, or like you're saying, a document.
Mhm.
When
Yep.
did you use practice sims, or how did you use practice sims in your study process?
So what I typically did, honestly, was just click submit and look at the answer and make sure that I understood it. And then if it was like there were some for audit and I think for reg maybe too, and probably back where it was a sim that was like a really good sim that covered a lot of the section. And for those, I would screenshot it and put that in my notes as sort of like, this is a summary of like what I really need to know for this section. But honestly, I didn't really do very many, for reg and probably for FAR too, I made sure that I could, like, work out some of the more, like, calculated questions. I would practice those a couple times. Um, but for the most part, I would just hit submit because I'd work it all out and maybe I understood it, but then I, like, made one little error and I'd get it wrong. So then that was, like, discouraging. I was like, "I'm just gonna hit submit and make sure I understand what they did."
No, that's exactly, I mean, that's exactly what I would tell, or what I tell people to do is
Yeah.
basically what you just summarized. If you pull up whatever 5 to 7 practice sims, find the ones out of those 7 that are the hardest to you. Just when you look at them, you think, "Hey,
Mhm.
that looks crazy," or "That's difficult." And then
Yes.
maybe try filling it out, but as soon as you're stuck, submit
Mhm.
it and then reverse engineer it, or just
Yes.
figure out based on the explanation, like, okay, this journal entry is this, when this transaction happens, it's this kind of an entry, and maybe make notes on it.
Yes.
And that's so much faster than
Yeah.
just staring at a sim for 20 minutes and then getting half of it wrong, like you said.
Yep. They're, and really for Sims, I mean, it's just like a summary of the different sections. So, like, if you understand the section and understand it enough to answer multiple choice on it, it's just the Sims are kind of like 10 multiple choice in a row. It's not, it's not like it's different material or anything. So,
Right. Yeah. And so you had, well, okay, you were in our forum, so you had our pro course videos as well,
mhm.
right? Did you watch all those when
Mhm.
we
Yep.
started?
Yep, and so and I think I did a lot of those things, but I just sort of, like, tailored it for myself,
Hmm.
and so I did at first try to get up early to study, and then my kids would hear me, they'd be like, "Oh, we can get up too." So, I just yeah, I was like, "I'm just gonna" I'd get to work early so that I could be done a little bit early or at least, like, on time, so that did I got up maybe a little earlier than usual, but not usually to study.
Yeah. And then you
Mhm.
might have said this. Which of our study tools did you use the most? I mean, obviously the notes, but I mean like from
Yep.
the app throughout the day. Did you just kind of take quizzes,
Yep.
or
I did. I would take quizzes just kind of like whenever I had a break just to recall stuff. And sometimes it was hard, like you have said with other people, when it's like, well, I haven't covered this yet. Why is it, I wish I could only look at what I've covered. But then, um, towards the end, towards a test, when I would be getting close, I'd get like 4 out of 5 questions right, or like sometimes 5 out of 5 questions right. And I was like, oh, I think I'm like getting to the point where I'm going to pass maybe. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I
and,
just think it Go ahead.
I would always listen to the audio notes too. Not necessarily every day, but as I got closer to the test, like the last week or so probably, I would listen through all the audio notes and skim through my notes. So, like, it was kind of like it was coming in 2 ways, like, I was listening to it and looking at it, and then also, like, as I'm skimming through, I could see, okay, this applies to these sims or this multiple choice that I missed, and be taking it all in. And then always on the way to my test, I would listen to a couple, usually just like the first few sections, because, there's no testing center here,
Mm,
so I would have to drive an hour or 2,
okay.
and I know I always got an extra multiple choice or 2 because I'd, like, hear something and be like, "Oh, okay." Then I get there and there'd always be a question about that. So that was
Yeah.
kinda cool.
Yeah, the morning of, I mean, like, that works, especially if you have a
Mhm.
long commute. I would always show up to the testing center, like, 2 hours early and just sit in the parking lot and do
Yeah.
one final pass through my own, flashcards. And, yeah, always, I would
Mhm.
walk in and just, like, I swear on the first testlet even, have, like, 5 things that I had just covered in my own flashcards. So,
Yeah. Yep.
had another question, let's see, oh, your final review. What did you do
Mhm.
What was the final review like for you? Like, did you save a week for
Yeah.
that, and what did you actually do?
Honestly, I feel like I was kind of, like, final reviewing the entire time since I'm, like,
Mhm,
always covering everything. Um, so I wouldn't like, there wasn't a point where I would, like, officially switch over and say, "This is my final review." I'd kinda have my notes done, like, reach all of them retyped, and then I would just be, like, looking at the hardest sections, like, for example, for reg, like, the corporate partner, all that different stuff. Um, and, if I was still having a hard time with the multiple choice, I would watch that Becker final review and, either watch it or do the multiple choice from that because I always thought that would be a good overview too. Um, yeah, I didn't really do anything crazy. I'd start listening to the audio notes then too and like listening to them while I would skim through my notes. Um, I didn't do anything like specifically different though.
yeah. Yeah, there's kinda 2 sides. If you're the daily set of 30 is obviously you're re-reviewing the whole time, and
Mhm.
then the
Yeah.
way our study tools are set up, same idea. You can listen to the full set of audios in, like, 2 to 3 hours, so 1 to 2 days of just
Mhm.
kinda listening to them half hour at a time or
Yep.
whatever, and so you get repeat
Yep.
exposure all the way through. And then but some people like to save a week and just do the kind of the
Mhm.
mega cram session strategy for a week
Mhm.
straight. But it's just one of
Mhm.
those things you can
Yeah.
personalize,
Yep.
so
Yeah, I think, probably if I had scheduled them further apart. So when I bought all the tests at the beginning of January, it may have even been end of December, I just scheduled them, and so then, like, I wouldn't always have time to have, like, a full final review. Um, it was usually, like, the night before, I'd be like, "I'm not gonna" it'd be a Friday night because 'cause I'd usually schedule them on Saturday. I'd be like, "I'm not gonna pass this anyway. I'm not even gonna go tomorrow. Cause there's, like" and my husband would be like, just go," and I'm like, "No, I'm just gonna not go because I wanna do this with the kids, and, like, I don't wanna drive all the way." And then he'd be like, "Just go." So then I'd kinda, like, just go in the morning, and, usually then on the way there, listening to the notes, I'd be like, "Okay, I think I know more of this than I realized." But man, the tests just are not fun.
Mhm.
It's just not enjoyable, especially, like, if you are someone who's, like, like me, like who's gonna score in the 70s, 80s, like low 80s. It's just not gonna be enjoyable, but just get them done. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's funny you say that because um your process was like clearly working, and that's something I hear from people a lot on these interviews is it's like when your study process is really effective, it's working, but
mhm.
you're you're so used to the process that it almost feels like you're being complacent or not doing enough, but then you'll go and you'll
Yeah,
still be passing sections. And so,
yeah,
yeah,
yep.
it's just about how
And I
effective your
did,
study.
yes, exactly. And right, if you're doing I mean, if you're passing, I guess, with like high 80s, 90s, like, that's probably not necessary for most of us. So I
Right.
think the week that I found out I passed my last one, there were several people in the firm that found out they got that, the Elijah, I can't remember what it's called, Sells Award. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, I cannot even imagine.
That is just
That's,
some
I
yeah,
mean, yeah.
99s or whatever it is, 97 plus on your first time on all 4. That's just like good for them.
No amount of Yeah, no amount of studying would have got me there because, like, the first time I was studying for FAR and I did watch, like, more of the videos and do a lot of the work, kind of how you say, like, by the time you get to the end, you can't remember anything at the beginning, and that's why I think, like, sometimes it's just better to get it done in, like, 4 or 5 weeks, cram it, make really good educated guesses on the ones you don't know, and cross your fingers.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm a big fan of shorter timelines. And some people just cannot handle that, like I cannot
Yeah,
set far 5 weeks away. I can't deal with that, I
yeah,
have to have longer, and so I'm like, "Okay,"
yeah,
that's another thing you can do your own way.
yep.
It always helped me to, like, feel the sense of pressure because I knew every single day mattered to study because I only had 4 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you
Yeah.
study any differently on the weekends?
No, not really. I would just usually like Saturday mornings. I mean, if I wasn't working, I would study for a couple hours, get a few more sections of my notes typed, but I pretty much did the same thing all the time. Um, I mean, there were a lot of times on the weekends when I wouldn't study. So, I mean, we're pretty involved in a lot of things like here in our town.
Mm,
I actually play violin and my husband plays guitar, so we like play a lot of music for like gigs and stuff. Like have
that's
2
awesome.
kids, we play for our church. I mean, yeah, I just could kind of relax a little bit. I mean, I usually studied like once or twice. Sunday evenings too, I'd start like, okay, get back into it, type some more notes,
Yeah.
but
No, but that's really nice.
nothing
So
crazy.
once you kinda got this process down, this just
Mhm.
really wasn't this big stressful
Yeah.
thing that kinda took over your life then.
Yeah, I mean, it was always on my mind.
Right.
I would like probably so my last one was reg. And so when I bought all 3, the first time I took reg, I failed it with a 61. It was in let's see, I sat for Beck and then reg, like, it was so silly, like 3 weeks after it, which I should have given myself more time than that because I had never done that. I don't know, I was just winging it. And then I passed audit, and then so then I had to come back and do reg again. So I knew that I, like, really needed to study. So that was the one time that I said no to stuff, was the week or 2 before reg, there were a couple family things that weren't big events, just, like, family wanting to spend time together, and I was just like, "Nope, I'm gonna study." Like, if I can study and, like, cram it the last couple weeks, I know I can pass this and be done. So
Yeah. And so did you, let's see, how long have you been at the firm you're at? My question is, did you pass
Mhm.
your exams before most people in your higher group? I'm assuming you did if you passed them in, like, 5.
Um Probably, but I probably like most people that were hired similar time to me are, first year associates, and I was hired, like, as a 2nd year. So, I mean, I had studied before I
Mhm.
joined, like, I had been studying since September. So, um, you know, I have studied probably more than them. And then Illinois is just, like, we just have all these, like, weird testing processes. So, you have to apply for the Illinois board. You don't get your score for the from NASBA, you get it from
Oh,
Illinois.
that's right.
So, like, a couple people have been ready to sit, but it has taken so long to get approved by the Illinois board to sit that that's a whole thing.
Hmm.
So,
You do it normally, or I
yeah.
mean, you do it. You take the exams at Prometric, like every state uses
Yeah.
Prometric, right? Same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but then we, like everyone gets their score on, like, the night before the score release date. If we're lucky, we get ours, the score release date at, like, 7 a.m., but there was one day, I think it was reg or no, sorry, it was my 2nd to last one, it was audit, that I didn't get it until, like, 1 p.m., and that
Mhm.
whole day, I was just, like,
Yeah, that's
so
brutal.
refreshing. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Refresh a million times. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember that. And then
yeah,
on test day, so another thing the set of 30 really helps you with is
mhm,
just doing really well, just getting you very comfortable or good at multiple choice questions. So on test day, did you
mhm.
cruise through the MCQs fairly easily and you had a bunch of time for the sims?
Yes, so there were a couple where I would have to, like, stop myself in the multiple choice where I'd have to say, "Okay, I've spent several minutes on this question. It's not a calculation question. Just pick your best guess and move on." So as long as I kind of how you said, like, I try to spend, like, a minute or so on average on each question and then take a really good guess and move on or I'd flag it for later. And then I think, like, for every test that I passed, I would usually have, like, 45 minutes to an hour left after I was done with the test. So that was always a good feeling. Um, yeah, I think especially for, like, Beck is the multiple choice are a little easier, but then
Mhm.
it gave me more time to, like, read through what I was typing out too. So that was
Yeah,
helpful for the I can't remember what those are called,
the written
the
memos.
written sims.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
Nice. Well, it sounds
Yeah.
like, or I think we've been through pretty much everything, stuff I normally ask. So
Yeah.
the well, is there anything else that you did, any other study strategy that we didn't mention that you felt like made a big difference for you?
Not necessarily a study strategy. I think I just really appreciated because of, like, the way my brain works and how I want everything, like, organized in the same place that your notes were in with the blueprint, and I wish, like, Becker would kind of, like, do that same thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a reason they don't, I don't know, something with the organization, um, but I just really appreciated that and how I could go and, like, find exactly from the Ninja multiple choice, like, where it went, and, yeah, I don't know. It helped me be a lot more efficient in my studying too, because I wasn't spending time, "Oh, where should this go?" or, like, looking at things in multiple places.
Right.
I
So,
think the other thing too
go ahead.
and then I know this, like, is not normal advice, but if you're someone who is kind of a perfectionist who wants to, like, get through the entire review course before you sit for the exam and do the final review, like, at some point, if you're overanalyzing it too much, just buy all 4 sections or a couple sections and just go sit for it because you're not gonna get 100%. Like, there's just get it done. And then if you fail and you're close, then you know you're close. Um, and
Correct.
if you pass, then you've passed.
Yeah. And that's my other argument to people is for a shorter timeline. Cause like if you space these
Yeah.
out 3 or 4 months and then you fail one, it just feels like this catastrophic event. And
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that you gain a lot from test day itself, seeing the exam, the real exam in person. And
Yes.
so study for 4 or 5 weeks, maybe 6, take one.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it sucks because it's whatever, 250 or something to repay or
Yeah.
retake an exam, but
Yeah.
it's I don't know. I like that whole idea a lot better than taking 3 or 4 months per section. There's just a lot of reasons. Okay, and what are
Yeah.
so my last question is always, what would
Mhm.
be your top 2 or 3 tips to people, even if it's stuff we already covered, people that are struggling with their study process, what would you tell them?
Um, don't passively study. Make sure that the study time you are putting in, you are focused and absorbing the information and like actively answering multiple choice and thinking through the explanation. Um, let's see. And then, yeah, like you say, like retyping your notes in your own words or figuring out what kind of learner you are. Like if you're an auditory learner, maybe watching some of the videos is good. But for me, I'm like a very visual learner. I like to like read through my notes. And so um just figuring out that and putting things in your own words too. It's helpful.
Yeah. So I sorry, I thought of one last question. So when you went
Mhm.
through multiple choice for a new lesson, let's say, and you said you would pull up
Yep.
20 or 30, what was your actual
Mhm.
process? Would you click through first to kind of see, okay, I keep seeing like most of these questions are about this one thing? Or would you try to
Yeah.
actually answer each one and then reperform calculation type questions? Or what was your actual process for that?
Yeah, it kinda depended, like how you say for in the pro videos when you first go through a section, just kind of like click through, and if you don't know it, just, mm, take a guess or see look at the answer, and so that's what I did a lot of times is, especially at the, like, first few times going through that section, is I would just click and look at the answer and put it in my notes, and it's crazy because they say that, right, like, your trending score on Ninja should be, like, a certain percent and you'll pass and you should finish a certain amount of Becker and you'll pass. I mean, I think my ninja percents say like 40% because I didn't waste time going through multiple choice that I was getting right. Like focus on the harder sections. If I didn't know something, I would put it in my notes so that I would recall it later. Um I think that yeah, you don't necessarily need to get like a crazy high percent on the multiple choice to pass,
Yeah. Well, and also those
because
kind of
you'll
oh, sorry. Those checkpoints built into the software, like the dashboards, those can be a
Mhm,
very inaccurate gauge of like where you're at. So I mean the
mhm,
best thing, like if you took a set of 30 questions from Ninja at like towards the end, what were you typically scoring on
yep.
those?
I guess towards the end, probably like 60 to 65%.
Yeah.
Uh, but, like, every single time I did multiple choice, I would see it as a benefit if I missed one because 'cause I'm like, "That caught something else I didn't know,
Right.
and that's awesome. Now if I get something similar to that question, I know the answer." So even the night before the test, I would get one I didn't know, and instead of freaking out, I'd be like, "Now that's, like, one more thing I know for the test."
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you a feedback question real fast.
Mhm.
So just what would be the if you were to sum it up, the top 1 or 2 biggest benefits you got from Superfast CPA?
Um, I think the notes how concise the notes are, because even the Ninja notes are pretty long, um, and yeah, like, at one point, I don't know, I tried so many things when I was studying for my very first go around at FAR. Um, I tried reading through the Ninja notes or the Ninja book, because I was like, "Oh, that'll be shorter than Becker," and I don't know, I really liked the notes. I think the app was probably, like, number 2 compared it was probably the written notes, then the, audio notes, and then the multiple choice on the app.
Yep. Yeah. Alright. Well, yep, we've been through everything, so I appreciate you taking the time to do this call. Like we were saying in the beginning, these are just a huge resource, and you're just adding to it, so I appreciate you doing it, and I'm glad you found our stuff and that it helped. and congrats on being done. Especially, it seems like it was relatively simple for you, so that's awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I'm glad that I didn't have to study from 5 to 11 PM every night and make this a several year long process. It was already
Yeah.
long enough to get to the point where I could sit, so
Well, again, I appreciate it. So that was the interview with Emily. I'm sure you found that very helpful and informative. And if you did, take a second to share the episode or the podcast in general with someone you know who is working on their CPA exams. Because, like I say every time, these interviews really are the most helpful free resource available anywhere for people trying to figure out their own CPA study process. So, thanks for listening or watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.